Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my Appliancer Gizmek deck, but without saying too much, let's go ahead and jump right on into it. Alright, of course, starting off, we do run 3 copies of Appliancer Stock Control. Stock Control has the effect of if you control an Appliancer monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. This card also has another effect that says if another Appliancer Stock Control is special summoned to your field while you control this monster, except during the damage step, you can special summon one Appliancer Stock Control from your deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. Continuing on, we do run 3 copies of Appliancer Breaker Bokel. Breaker Bokel has the effect of during the damage step, if an Appliancer monster you control battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can discard this card for that battle. That monster you control cannot be destroyed and you take no battle damage. If an Appliancer monster you control will be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So this card is just mainly in here to be able to protect our Appliancer monsters, which is just really powerful. And then to wrap up the Appliancers, we do run 3 copies of Copy Bokel. Copy Bokel is actually a very interesting card with the effect of you can target one Appliancer monster you control, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, this card's name becomes that monster's name until the end phase. This card also says that during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Appliancer monster you control, special summon one monster with the same name from your hand or graveyard. You can only use each effect once per turn. The cool part about the Appliancer monsters in this deck is that they all have 0 attack and 0 defense, which means that they pair really well with the Gizmeks, who do lots of things with monsters with the same attack as they do defense. So really, these cards are really powerful. Continuing on for the Gizmeks, we do run 3 copies of Gizmek Inaba, the Hopping Haze of Hakuto. This card says that when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon one machine monster whose attack equals its own defense from your hand in defense position. So of course that'll allow you to get any of your Appliancers as well as your other Gizmeks. Then this card says you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target one machine monster you control whose attack is equal to its own defense. This turn, you cannot declare attacks except with that monster. Also, its attack and defense become the combined original attack of all machine monsters you currently control whose attack equals their own defense. So practically, this card just says that you can target one monster and make it really big by combining all the attacks of the monsters on field, which is just insane. Continuing on, we do run 3 copies of Gizmek Yada. Gizmek Yada just says that you can special summon this card from your hand by attributing one normal summon monster, and then you can only use each of the following effects of Gizmek Yada, the Gleaming Vanguard, once per turn. The first effect of this card is that during the main phase, if this card was normal or special summon this turn, you can immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon one monster, and if you do, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except monsters with the same original type as that monster, which of course, all the monsters that we do run are machines, so that doesn't really bother us all too much. Then the second effect of this card says that if this card, special summoned by its own effect, is distributed, gain 2,050 life points, which all the Gizmeks have 50 in their attacks, which attack and defense, which is kind of interesting, but I mean, it's also quite weird when it comes to actual damage calculations. Continuing on, we do run 3 copies of Gizmek Arakami, the Hellbringer Hog. This card says that if you control a machine monster whose attack equals its own defense, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then this card also says that you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one machine monster you control whose attack is equal to its own defense, and send one monster from the deck to the graveyard whose attack is equal to its own defense. And if you do, that targeted monster gains the attack and defense equal to the level of the monster sent to the graveyard times 100. You can only use each effect once per turn. And then continuing on, we do run 2 copies of Gizmek Orochi. Gizmek Orochi, if y'all don't know, because this card has been used a lot in the past, says that if this card is in your hand or is in your graveyard, quick effect, you can banish the top 8 cards of your deck face down and then special summon this card. This card also says you can banish 3 cards from your extra deck face down, and if you do, you can target one monster on the field and destroy it. You can only use one effect of Gizmek Orochi, the Serpentron Sky Slasher effect, once per turn and only once that turn. Then of course we do run 1 copy of Gizmek Makami. Only reason why we run 1 copy of this is because the only cards that we really run in this deck to banish our own cards face down is, of course, the Orochi. But this card says that while 6 or more of your cards are banished, you can normal summon this card without tributing. This card also says that you can only use each of the following effects of Gizmek Makami, the Ferocious Fanged Fortress once per turn. This card says that if this card is normal or special summon, you can discard one monster to add one monster whose attack is equal to its own defense from your deck to your hand, except Gizmek Mikami, the Ferocious Fanged Fortress. This card also says that if this card is in the monster zone is destroyed, you can shuffle 6 of your banished cards into the deck. So therefore, that allows you just to put back some of the cards that were banished by Gizmek Orochi. Then to wrap up the Gizmeks, we do run one copy of Gizmek Okami, the Dreaded Deluge Dragon. This card says you can pay 1,500 life points to destroy all monsters on the field that were special summoned from the extra deck. Also, you can only attack with one monster for the rest of the turn, which is not too bad when you combine it with the other Gizmek that allows you to boost the attack of your own monster that you can only attack once with. So that is actually not too bad of an effect. This card also says that you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If 2 or more monsters special summoned from the extra deck are on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then this also says that if this card in your possession is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can banish one monster in your opponent's graveyard and gain life points equal to its attack. So that's it for the Gizmeks. Moving on, we do run 2 more monsters in the deck to kind of help combine with some of the Link summoning. We run 1 copy of Codebreaker 0 Day. 0 Day just says all Link monsters pointing to this card lose 1,000 attack, except Codebreaker Link monsters. If a Codebreaker Link monster or monsters are on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, while this card is on the field, destroy this card. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effects, you can add 1 Codebreaker 0 Day from your deck to your hand. This card is not really good, and you're never going to use the effect. The only reason why we use this is for the Link monsters, which of course I'll go over in just a moment. And then to wrap it up, we do run 1 copy of the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots. This is only in here for being able to set up multiple Fog Blades against our opponent by using Rusty Bardiche, which I'll go over in just a moment. Alright, continuing on into the spell cards, we do run 3 copies of Sacred Scrolls of the Gizmek Legend. This card says that during your main phase, you can excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, you can add 1 excavated machine monster whose attack equals its own defense to your hand, then banish the remaining cards face down. This card also says that you can only use this effect once per turn. Each time a machine monster whose attack is equal to its own defense is normal or special summon, you can place 1 counter on this card. While this card has 10 or more counters, neither player can activate the effects of monsters on the field whose attack does not equal their own defense. So this card is just pretty much a floodgate once you can get enough monsters on field to activate that effect. But if you can't, then this can still allow you to dig down 3 cards to get into one of your monsters. Continuing on, we do run 2 copies of Appliancer Lyrical World. This card says that when this card is activated, you can add 1 Appliancer card from your deck to your hand, except a field spell. So this card can practically search anything except for itself. And then once per turn, if you Link summon an Appliancer Link monster, you can add 1 Appliancer monster from your graveyard to your hand. This card also says once per turn, when the monster declares an attack, you can move 1 Appliancer monster you control to another one of your main monster zones, and you can only activate 1 copy of this card per turn. So practically the whole point of the Appliancers is that they move around and each get effects if they are linked or not linked to one of your own monsters. Then of course we do run 1 copy of Terraforming just to be able to search out our field spells. Continuing on, we run 3 copies of Appliancer Reuse. This card just says target 1 Appliancer monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but place it on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field. So it just allows you a little bit of recursion as well as being able to summon a monster for basically free. And then we only run 1 copy of Appliancer Test. This card says target 1 Appliancer Link monster you control, special summon as many Link 1 Appliancer monsters from your graveyard as possible to zones that monster points to, but banish them in the end phase. You can only activate 1 Appliancer Test per turn. And then to wrap it up for the spells, we do run 1 copy of 1 for 1 just to be able to special summon out any of our level 1s, which all of our Appliancers are. And then of course we do run 3 copies of Machine Duplication, because why not just spam a bunch of monsters onto the field at once? And then, of course, to wrap up the deck, we do run 2 copies of Fogblade, just to add a bit of extra negation, which we will go over in just a moment, on how we set these to our side of the field. Alright, and moving on into the extra deck, of course, we run 1 of each of the Appliancers, but I'm going to go over their effects really quickly. This card says that this linked card cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects or their monster's attacks. During damage calculation, if a Appliancer Link monster you control is co-linked to this card, battles an opponent's monster, the battling monster gains attack equal to the number of monsters co-linked to this card times 1,000, during that damage calculation only. Once per turn, if an Appliancer Link monster you control that is not co-linked to this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you draw 1 card. Then continuing on, we do run 1 copy of Appliancer Propelion. I don't know how to pronounce this card, so I do apologize. but this card just says that it cannot be used as a link material when the turn that it is link summoned. All of the link ones have that stipulation of where you cannot link summon them the turn they are link summoned, but this card does say that this card can attack directly. Once per turn during damage calculation, if your monster battles an opponent's monster while this card is co-linked, quick effect, you can make that opponent's monster attack 0 during that damage calculation only. However, if this card is not co-linked, once per turn quick effect, you can make that opponent's monster 0 during damage calculation only. So practically, if this card is co-linked, it allows any of your other Appliancer link monsters to be able to activate that effect. However, if it is not co-linked, then only this card can. Continuing on, we do run one copy of Appliancer Launcher Dragon. This card says that neither player takes any battle damage from attacks involving this card. This card also says that once per turn after damage calculation, if this co-linked card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish that opponent's monster. Then this card also says that once per turn after damage calculation, if this monster that is not co-linked battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that opponent's monster. So instead of banishing, it destroys it. And then if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. So therefore, yes, it destroys instead of banishes. However, it also does inflict damage. Then, of course, we do run one copy of Appliancer Kappa Scale. This card says that you can tribute this co-linked card, then special summon one Appliancer Link monster from your graveyard except Appliancer Kappa Scale. Then this card also says that you can tribute this card that is not co-linked to special summon one level 4 or lower Appliancer monster from your graveyard. So practically this card is just a monster reborn for your actual Appliancer monsters, while the effect that while it's co-linked allows you to special summon back a Link monster. Then we do run one copy of Appliancer Vacuum Elephant. This card says that this card can attack directly while it is not co-linked. And then this card says that you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, then target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. This card also says that if this card is co-linked, you can target one monster in your opponent's main monster zone and destroy it. You can only use one effect of Vacuum Elephant per turn, and only once that turn. Then to wrap it up for the complicated Appliancer monsters, we run one copy of Appliancer Dryer Drake. This card says that this Link monster gains 1000 attack. This card also says that once per turn during your battle phase, if this card is co-linked except during the main phase, you can switch the locations of 2 Appliancer monsters in your main monster zones, including this card. So therefore, this card must be one of the cards that are moved by this effect. And if you do, the other monster can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. This card also says that once per turn, when this card that is not co-linked is targeted for an attack, you can negate that attack. So that's it for the Appliancer monsters. Now to go into the other Link monsters for the deck. Continuing on, we do run one copy of Link Karibo. We've run Link Karibo in here because this is all level 1s, and if we need to get monsters with different names on the field, this can get rid of any of our duplicates. Then, of course, we do run one copy of Nightmare Phoenix just to be able to get rid of Pesky Back Row. And then we do run one copy of Virus Swordsman and one copy of Virus Berserker. Pretty much what these cards does is, Virus Swordsman says that when this card is co-linked, you can special summon one Codebreaker 0 day from your deck. So practically that just allows you to get that monster out onto the field, where you can then link into Codebreaker Virus Berserker. Codebreaker Virus Swordsman has the effect that if this card is co-linked, you can special summon any number of Codebreaker monsters from your graveyard to your side of the field to zones that a link monster points to. So therefore, what you really want to do is be able to get a monster with 3 downward facing arrows, and you can just summon back your Virus Swordsman and your Codebreaker 0 day, so that way you can link climb even further. The main thing for that is once you get all those monsters on the field, you can then link summon away your Virus Swordsman and your Codebreaker 0 day into the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardish. Rusty Bardish has the effect of, during your main phase, you can send one Phantom Knights monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then set one Phantom Knight spell or trap directly from your deck. The other effect of this card is not really used because we do not run any Dark Xyz. However, it is still very important to be able to set up our Fogblade, because of course, Silent Boots can banish itself to search for your second copy of Fogblade. So when you pass your turn, your opponent will have to face off against 2 Fogblades to negate their monsters. Continuing on, we do run one copy of Crusadia Avermax. This card is really powerful just to be able to kind of act like a towers that is extremely hard to get over and can boost itself to be able to get over any special summon monsters. Then, of course, we do run one copy of Saryuja Skulldread. Saryuja Skulldread's main use for this deck is to be able to dig down deeper, as well as be the main card that we use for the Codebreaker cards because of its 3 downward-facing arrows. Then, to help wrap up games, we do run one copy of Access Code Talker, and we also do run one copy of Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, just to be able to end on a board of multiple negations. Alright, so with that being said, guys, that's going to be about it for the video. Be sure to leave a like, comment down below what you guys think of the deck profile, as well as what you guys would like to see in the future. Be sure to check the Twitter down in the description, where I post constant updates, as well as ask you guys questions over there. But with that being said, that's going to be about it. See ya!